Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Budget and Tax Committee, January 26, 21 hearing. We have 12 bills today. A little housekeeping. The the sponsor will take the time that they need. After that, they have a dedicated sort of expert witness that has 5 minutes. And then after that, everyone else who testifies will have 2.5 minutes. We don't have an elegant solution yet for timing. So staff is doing that and then texting me when time is coming to a close. So you'll hear me jump in. I like to give people the opportunity to finish their thoughts. So for the most part, I think everybody should do fine, but know that those are our time limits. If members want to question a witness or a panel, certainly use the raise hand function. And I'll do my best to recognize you. And if I don't, I'm sure somebody will tell me that I missed you. And we'll come back to it. So I think that's basically the ground rules. And I'm glad we're all here today. This is, we got some important bills to handle, but the very first bill, the governor's Recovery for the Economy, Livelihoods, Industries, Entrepreneurs and Families Act, relief. That was a pretty good job getting all that in there. I just want to say that I think this, along with the budget, which I think go hand in hand, are the most important things we're going to be doing this session. And we have been working throughout the interim, this whole committee, as well as the whole legislature, and looking at all kinds of options, ways to assist our citizens, businesses who have struggled through the pandemic. I want to recognize for sure the efforts of the governor and his administration. It's been a lot of work. And although there have been times when we have suggested our own thoughts and ideas, those are certainly well within what our responsibilities are as a legislature. I want to commend the governor and his staff, the departments, on a lot of good work. This is a very trying time, and you need to be recognized for that and appreciated for that good work. I see the legislature and the governor as hand in hand in our resolve to do what's best for our citizens, our communities, and I just want to thank you up front. And with that, I'm going to jump right into the first bill, the Relief Act that the governor has brought before us. And we'll start with Kiefer Mitchell.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Members of the Budget and Tax Committee, I appreciate this opportunity to present the governor's #1 priority, the Relief Act of 2021. And Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I would like to thank you and members of the committee for taking the time as we talked about this legislation to give you an update and hear your thoughts and ideas. Also want to thank President Ferguson and his staff for working with us as we start to craft this piece of legislation. Joining us for this testimony is Secretary Schultz of the Commerce Department, Secretary Robinson, the Department of Labor, Mark Nicole of the Department of Budget and Management, and Ali Keene, Deputy Legislative Officer. The global pandemic has caused tremendous economic hardship for individuals and small businesses. Since the start of this pandemic, Governor Hogan's #1 priority has been saving lives of Marylanders. A close second priority of the governor has been protecting Marylanders from economic harm. Our nation's governors have been leading on the front lines of this crisis. As our federal government muddled its way through this crisis, Governor Hogan did not wait for the federal government to get its act together. He has been a leader nationally with his aggressive and decisive actions. A brief review of where we have been and where we are now will help put into context on why the Relief Act of 2021 is Governor Hogan's #1 legislative priority. On March 5th, 2020, the governor announced the first cases of the COVID-19 virus in Maryland and declared a state of emergency. On March 12th, the governor announced the first case of COVID-19 community transmission and announced the closure of schools, senior centers, the prohibition on mass gatherings, and mandatory telework for non-essential state employees. On March 16th, the governor ordered the closure of bars, restaurants, fitness centers, and theaters. He also issued emergency orders to prohibit utility shutoffs and evictions. On March 23rd, Governor Hogan announced the closure of non-essential businesses and the first of several economic relief packages of $175 million of the business relief program. For example, the Layoff Aversion Fund and the Small Business Relief Fund. With these aggressive actions, the governor has been able to help mitigate the loss of lives, assist individuals and small businesses, and prevent the collapse of the Maryland economy. Prior to the 2021 legislative session, Governor Hogan directed his legislative team to focus his legislative agenda on providing additional relief to individual and small businesses. This Emergency Relief Act of 2021 is a result of those efforts, providing $1.1 billion in relief, which is on top of $700 million in economic assistance that's already been provided. We would ask for a quick turnaround in this passage of this emergency legislation. And we look forward to working with you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Senate on this important legislation. And at this time, I'm now going to turn it to our Deputy Legislative Officer, Allie Kane, who will walk you through the legislation.
Good afternoon, Chair Gazone, Vice Chair Rosapep, and members of the Senate Budget and Tax Committee. I also want to reiterate what was just said and thank you, Mr. Chair, for meeting with Kiefer and I this week and the rest of the committee. I know we scheduled those meetings quickly and those conversations were very helpful for us. As Kiefer mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused devastating economic hardships for many struggling Marylanders and small businesses. This is the reason why, for the 2021 legislative session, the governor's top priority is the recovery for the economy, livelihoods, industries, entrepreneurs, and families, or the Relief Act. As the title states, the target for the Governor's Relief Act is families, businesses, and unemployed Marylanders. The governor's aim in this legislation and the directive he gave to us in creating this proposal was that he wanted to provide relief to Maryland families and businesses that was both immediate and easy to receive. One great example of that is in Senate Bill 496 is a direct stimulus payment for low to moderate income Marylanders utilizing the already existing earned income tax credit. This relief begins with immediate payments of $500 for families and $300 for individuals who filed for the earned income tax credit in tax year 19. This is followed by a second round stimulus for earned income tax credit filers in tax year 20. That would provide an additional $250 for families and $150 for individuals. This is similar to how the federal stimulus payments would work, where no application would be necessary. The earned income tax credit has been proven to have direct and immediate impact on hardworking Marylanders, and this enhanced stimulus provision will provide much needed relief to over 400,000 Marylanders who have been disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. I thank you again for your time this afternoon, and I'm now going to turn it over to Secretary Robinson.
Good afternoon, Chair Gazone, Vice Chair Rosapep, and members of the committee. And thank you, Ally and Kiefer, for the introduction on this bill. My name is Tiffany Robinson, and I'm Secretary at the Maryland Department of Labor. I'm proud to join the administration today to testify in support of Governor Hogan's Relief Act of 2021. I would like to echo the fact that this emergency legislative package will provide critical financial support and tax relief to unemployed Marylanders who have lost their jobs, and to small businesses that are struggling due to the COVID-19 pandemic. During this unprecedented public health and economic crisis, our department has received over 1.4 million new unemployment insurance claims and has paid over $9 billion in benefits. This relief package provides further financial assistance to the hundreds of thousands of claimants that have been determined eligible to receive benefits by repealing all state and local income tax on the benefits payments they have received for calendar year 2020 and beyond. This means that many Marylanders that need it most will see a refund of any withheld UI taxes from their benefits from 2020. The relief package also provides unemployment tax relief for small businesses by codifying and extending an executive order that the governor issued in December 2020 that waives the charging of COVID-19 unemployment insurance benefits to employers. This prevents Maryland's contributory employers from having their experience rating negatively impacted due to the pandemic. It specifically prevents these employers from being held financially responsible because they had to lay off or furlough employees through no fault of their own due to the economic consequences of the pandemic. By calculating tax rates based on their pre-pandemic experience, employers' 2021 and 2022 tax rates will significantly be reduced from what they would have been without the executive order and legislation. I also want to mention that we're working on a technical amendment that will be submitted shortly because it has come to our attention that a very small subset of employers could potentially be negatively impacted by this legislation. And we obviously want to ensure that we have the authority in this bill to assign the lower of the two tax rates to any employer that may fall into this small category. And with that, I strongly encourage the committee to vote favorably for the Relief Act of 2021 because the passage of this emergency legislation is critical for the livelihood of our state's unemployment insurance claimants, as well as the longevity and stability of our state's small business community. Thank you for your time. And with that, I will turn to my colleague from the Department of Commerce to highlight the remainder of this important legislation.
Great, thank you, Secretary Robinson. And good afternoon, Chairman Gazone, Vice Chairman Rosapep, and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Kelly Schultz, Secretary of Maryland's Department of Commerce, and we are here in support of Senate Bill 496. From the very start of this pandemic, Governor Hogan has been committed to providing relief for Marylanders and Maryland businesses, and to keeping our economy strong until COVID-19 is behind us once and for all. So far, this administration has provided over $700 million in coronavirus relief funding, with business assistance that has included $220 million in emergency grant and loan assistance for small businesses. With that, $75 million in loans now converted to grants, so those businesses are not burdened with debt during this uncertain period. We provided $5 million to support manufacturers so they could begin or accelerate production of personal protective equipment early in the pandemic. We provided $10 million for additional loans to economically disadvantaged businesses through our Miss BIDFA program. Commerce also provided $80 million in restaurant relief and $50 million in hotel relief. Those funds were provided to the local jurisdictions for disbursement. Governor Hogan also provided $30 million, as Secretary Robinson had said, for the layoff aversion fund administered by the Department of Labor, which helped businesses ensure employees could telework and helped cover the cost of additional cleaning and sanitation measures businesses might need to stay open. He also provided $20 million in relief for the Main Street, Maryland communities through the Department of Housing and Community Development. And he additionally provided $47 million for nonprofits and $7 million for funding for artists and arts organizations through the Maryland State Arts Council. But as the pandemic has dragged on, it hasn't been enough. Many businesses have had to close. Thousands of Marylanders are still out of work. Marylanders need more relief, and Senate Bill 496 can provide it. I want to specifically address a couple of important provisions in this bill for our business community. First is the sales tax relief for small businesses. This will allow more than 55,000 small businesses in the state to take that money and apply it directly to payroll and other essential operational costs. This will help businesses keep the doors open and the lights on. It will help their employees pay their bills, put food on their tables, and care for their families. Furthermore, the more we can do to help businesses afloat, to keeping businesses afloat during this very difficult time, the less ground Maryland will have to make up as the pandemic subsides and the economy continues to recover. It is far better for the state to forego some tax revenue now than to ask businesses and entrepreneurs to start over from scratch if their business is shut down. Next, I want to mention the protection for businesses who have received grants or loans from the state. Governor Hogan announced last month that Maryland would forgive the $75 million in small business emergency relief loans. Since those are now grants, Senate Bill 486 would prevent those businesses from seeing their taxes increase as a result. The goal of our grant program was for the money to go to the businesses for their needs, not the money to come back to the state through taxes. That was not our purpose. This bill will make sure businesses keep their relief funds as we had intended. A related provision in this bill will make a change to our MISBIDFA program that will allow forgiveness of the COVID-19 emergency loans provided by that entity so that they can also be converted to grants. As I noted a moment ago, Governor Hogan provided $10 million to MISBIDFA for additional loans to businesses impacted by the pandemic. And we would like to extend to them the same forgiveness that our other loan applicants were granted. However, in order to do this, we required a change to the statute, which is included in Senate Bill 496. We believe the provision in this bill will not only provide relief to our business community in the short term, but will help us lay the groundwork for a smoother and faster recovery period when we can finally put this pandemic behind us. We respectfully request a favorable report on this important piece of legislation, possibly the most important piece of legislation that any of you will ever be voting on. Thank you very much, and I believe that we are all here to take questions as we see fit.
Okay, so Mr. Nicole's just there for questions. He's not presenting.
Correct. He's here to answer technical questions, sir.
Great, great. Okay, questions from the committee. Find that raise the hand button. Let me just say, and you know, I think there's a lot of good stuff in this bill, as we all know, we've seen the big CARES Act from last year. We've seen the slim down that was recently passed. We've seen the governor's efforts on multiple occasions, and we're now seeing the Biden administration stepping up with another major proposal. And the interesting thing, and Secretary, as you were talking, you said at some point as you were going, there's a lot of folks that have their mics on. If they could put their mics on, please. Thank you. There's been a lot of effort out there. And at one point, you say in the process that it just wasn't enough, and that this bill will help with that. And I think that's the big question that we all struggle with. And we've talked about this before, you and I, about what all of the components are. And we have all those, at least we have some sense of all those, although some of them are still up in the air, particularly what will happen now with the new administration. How far will that new bill go? But they're all important components. And I do appreciate very much the governor bringing forth this legislation. Let me ask you this. We've also talked about this before. Your bill has this component about sales tax relief, if you will. And there is a segment of our economy that does not collect sales tax, so therefore wouldn't be able to hold back the remitting of that. What thoughts do you have on that? I know there have been other programs out there that may have helped those individuals, but what about this particular moment?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer from my perspective, and perhaps when I'm finished, maybe Mark Nicole might want to institute some of his opinion on it. But as we kind of discussed and had this conversation, and I very much greatly appreciate the conversations we have had on this topic, Mr. Chairman. When we look at those industries that have been most harmed, they are those sectors that are the collectors of the sales tax. So right now we're seeing the longevity of industries within the hospitality industry, the restaurants, the hotels, the accommodations, anyone that in the retail, those that are collecting. Those have been the hardest hit industries that we have seen in the state of Maryland and around the country. So being able to specifically target a tax credit type of a program to those that we can really taper into something that would be meaningful as far as relief is something I think that is really important to the administration and to the governor. And as you know, back on March 23rd, when we put our relief programs out there, both the grant program and the loan program, out to the general public, it was a very generalized type of relief plan because there was no knowing at that point in time how long the pandemic would occur and what the extent of the damage on the economy would be. Now we have the opportunity to be a little bit more targeted because we have seen for, unfortunately, the last 10 months, what the industry sectors are suffering with out there. And I would say that would be a response. And I'm not sure if Mark has anything additional to add to that or not.
I think the only thing that I would say, I certainly echo a lot of what Secretary Schultz said, but I think as Allie had said in the beginning, one of our goals was to try to find a way to provide relief to as many individuals and businesses as quickly as possible. We have this mechanism now where folks remit sales tax to the state, so it's very easy. We know who these people are, and we can set up this program very quickly. Obviously, if we want to expand to other types of businesses, you have to begin to create sort of an additional application or form to evaluate and then provide assistance. I know Secretary Schultz would say it did take a while for them to stand up their program, and we're trying to get relief out to as many Maryland businesses as quickly as possible.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we look forward to working with you. It's going to be a good session. And as we know, there's this as well as the impact of the budget and the merging of the two of those as we move forward is going to be critical that we do our very best to help as many folks as we possibly can. And really to put our economy on the right thing. I'm not one who believes that government can solve every problem, but we certainly can step up and do a great job, hopefully, of laying the framework for the community and for future success. So I look forward to working with you now and throughout the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to Senator Peters.
Senator, we have Isabel.
Oh, I apologize. Right.
That's okay.
Yep. That's right. We have two individuals who wanted to testify, Isabel Molina and Carly Wood. My apologies. Ms. Molina?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Hey, how are you?
Awesome, thank you so much. So I am, hold on one second, let me see here. I am testifying on behalf of all the Maryland residents who have lost their job as a result of COVID. I worked at a fine institution, Johns Hopkins Medicine. I worked for the International Division and got furloughed in March and then got laid off in April. What I will start by saying is, I do thank the state of Maryland. I was a recipient of the OHEP assistance, which helped with my energy bill. So I do thank you for that. However, I am still struggling, have not been able to secure employment. And, you know, I cringe at the thought of having to file taxes this year. Obviously, they taxed us on our unemployment. And so I opted not to have taxes taken out just because I wanted to keep as much income as possible, obviously not knowing what was going to happen in the coming months. And so now I'm cringing at the thought of filling out my taxes and having to pay all those taxes back to the state. So I am asking for assistance in that regard. And just, you know, just a plea to the state of Maryland to keep, you know, to help us, those of us who are struggling. I've been working since I was 15 years old. I'm not here for handouts. Honestly, I would want to get back into the workforce. So ideally, I want to be working. I don't want to be depending on the government or the state for assistance. But the situation is, I'm in a situation where I can't secure employment at this time. And so I do need assistance. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing to assist us Marylanders who have lost our jobs due to COVID and those who are out here struggling.
Thank you very much. Questions for the witness? Okay, thank you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Carly Wood?
Senator, there is one more person.
Yep.
Oh, Halloran?
Oh, okay. Is Ms. Wood not available?
We don't see her in here now.
Okay. Then Mr. O'Halloran.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and members of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee. It's good to be with you this afternoon, albeit virtually. Certainly miss roaming the halls of the State House. For the record, my name is Mike O'Halloran, State Director for NFIB Maryland, here in support of Senate Bill 496. You have my written testimony in front of you, so I certainly don't want to take up more of your time than is necessary. Our members do wish to thank the governor for putting forward this legislation. It seems to them to be a logical next step in helping reignite Maryland's economy in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Included in the bill is one of the NFIB's legislative priorities, and that is protecting small businesses from skyrocketing unemployment insurance rates. When comparing the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund and its solvency levels during the Great Recession as compared to now, we are far outpacing the drop experienced in 2008 to 2010. The difference, though, is that now those claims being processed are the result of government-imposed closures and capacity restrictions, a very tough choice that our government officials had to make in the interest of public health and keeping our public safe. Under Senate Bill 496, employers will not see their experience rating negatively impacted because of those unavoidable claims. Secondly, SB 496 also provides targeted relief to small businesses which collect and remit sales taxes. That money can further be used to bring employees, hire them back off of the unemployment insurance rolls, an important thing, again, in the step to reigniting our economy. We look forward to working with the committee on this issue and many other issues throughout the session, and look forward to any questions that you may have. But we do ask for a favorable committee report. Thank you.
Okay, questions? All right, thank you very much. I think I can now move on to Senator Peters, Senate Bill 60, State Debt Annuity Bond Fund, use of bond premiums. I can't hear you. Senator? Does anyone else not, does anyone hear Senator Peters? No. You try to, so I think I'm gonna try to unlock your mute one more time, see if it opens it up. No. How about, I'm guessing that the treasurer Copkin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I know Senator Peters, and I am not Senator Peters, but thank you very much for to the senator for sponsoring Senate Bill 60 and for you and the committee entertaining it. We bring you Senate Bill 60 in order to correct a problem that was created in the past year by changing advice from our bond counsel regarding what the IRS can allow us to do with proceeds from bond premiums that we receive at the bond sales. As you know, in an era of low interest rates, the buyers in the market have chosen to keep a coupon at 4 or 5% and to pay a premium for buying our good, strong, conservative state bonds. And so the premiums have come in significantly. We have applied them to debt service, thereby allowing us to avoid putting more general funds into debt service. The bond counsel now tells us that we may do that for the first 3 years of any bond sale or any bonds which we're paying debt service, and or apply it to capital projects or to essentially downsizing the bond issuance. But there are issues in the law, in Maryland law, which have to be addressed and corrected. And that's what the senator, as your representative on the Capital Debt Affordability Committee, is bringing to you. I understand there are variations to be proposed by Department of Budget and Management. That's all for you all to decide. I would only say, as your treasurer, I would urge you not to bind the legislature's hands and to not reduce the flexibility that I believe the legislature can exercise quite well in choosing among the appropriate sanctioned use of the premia. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christian Lund, who is the Director of State Debt for the state, and Kate Allen, who is our Assistant Attorney General.
Thank you very much, Treasurer, and thank you, members of the committee. Thank you in particular, Senator Peters and Lori and Allison on your staff for working with us on this legislation. So I'm going to keep this very high level, and we can drill down into the details if we need to. The Treasurer did a really good job of just laying out the basic issue. The guidance from bond counsel on what we can do with our bond premium has changed. In the past, we could use almost all of our bond premium to offset debt service cost. And now they're restricting how much debt service that we can offset with bond premium. So we need to find other uses to spend it on. So SB 60 is a very simple bill. It just conforms state law, which currently only allows us to spend bond premium on debt service, with federal law, which has a couple of other types of things that you can allocate bond premium to. So that includes, as she said, resizing our bond sales, capital projects, and there's also some other extraordinary uses that are allowable under federal law and regulation. So, that's the basis, or that's the basics of this legislation. The only other thing that I would note is that there is an expectation with Senate Bill 60 that the Governor and General Assembly would continue its practice of using budget legislation every year to direct the use of premium. So we're not taking that authority away from the legislature or the governor. Y'all will still determine how premium should be used, and we will enact that. What this bill is a fail-safe, so that in the event of an extraordinary circumstance, such as a windfall premium or a lack of legislative direction for whatever reason, the state has the authority to still allocate this bond premium and avoid any tax issues down the road, which of course could jeopardize our tax exempt status of our bonds, which we want to make sure never happens. So I want to talk too about just the difference between Senate Bill 60 and what the governor has proposed in the BRFA. But I guess I would pause here for questions on just the SB 60 itself, if anybody has anything that they'd like clarified. Okay. If not, so there is this competing proposal in the BRFA, and it is also a response to the same updated guidance from Bond Council. There's a couple of differences between SB 60 and the BRFA proposal. The smaller of those two differences is that the governor's proposal doesn't include a clause allowing us to take advantage of some of those extraordinary circumstances for the use of premium. We don't anticipate that this would be taken advantage of very frequently, but we think it's a good tool to have in the state's tool belt. And since we are updating the statute anyway, we think that it should be included. But the bigger difference is that the governor's proposal is prescriptive. So essentially what it does is it says that beginning in fiscal year 24, premium would not be allowed to be spent on new capital projects. Okay, it would only be allowed to be used to resize the state's bond sales. As I mentioned a second ago, SB 60 anticipates that every year the legislature and governor would determine how to use the premium via the capital and operating budgets. So there's nothing inherently wrong with the governor's proposal. It solves the problem. It doesn't have any negative operational impact on the treasurer's office. So if the legislature agrees that beginning in fiscal 24, we should only use premium to resize, then by all means, you can pass that provision instead. But if you want to maintain the flexibility that you have to work this out via the budget process every year, then we would recommend that you stay with Senate Bill 60. And that concludes my testimony. Kate and I are here for questions if you have any.
Questions for the witnesses? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senator Peters, that was the best presentation I think I've seen you ever give. All right. Senate Bill 133, Senator Rosapap, Local Tax Relief for Working Families Act.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a bill that we had last year. Basically, it allows a local government at their option to make their local income tax progressive. As you know, we have a progressive state income tax, but the local income tax is fixed rate. And as we also know, this is particularly appropriate in the COVID environment. As everybody knows, some people have gotten really poor in the COVID crisis, and some people have gotten really rich. And so the inequality that has been a problem for our country for a long time has been exacerbated by the COVID challenge. So the idea of making our local income taxes more progressive, giving the counties at their option, doesn't require it, and the city of Baltimore the option of asking a little more from the people who've done very well to support their services, I think is very timely and a good idea. That's my testimony.
Thank you, Senator. County Executive Pittman, Anne Arundel County. Good to see you.
Thank you, Chairman Gazzoni, and everybody on the committee, and thank you, Senator Rosapap, for sponsoring this bill, and as well as my friends in other counties who are going to be joining us. Council Chairman Mosby, I see you there. Good. I wasn't sure if you were going to make it. We brought this bill up last year. We talked about it last year. We've had our budget office look at what the impact would be on our county, and it's significant. But but it's fair in my view. It was 1999 when things got changed in the state of Maryland so that our local income tax was no longer a piggyback on the progressive state tax. So we were progressive, but in 1999 we went flat. And so I was surprised when I came into this office that we couldn't do anything about that. The part of the bill that's probably the most controversial is allowing counties to go above 3.2 to 3.5 for top earners, for folks making $500,000 for an individual or $600,000 for a family, and only their income above that level would be taxed at a higher rate. They'd still have a lower level for their first $500,000 a year of taxable income. So in Anne Arundel County, that's 1.4% of our residents that are in that high tax bracket. And if we bump them to 3.5, we would get about $16 million that we could use to lower taxes on 98.6% of our residents, and maybe still have a little bit left over to do some good things in terms of services for our residents. So it's not very controversial. MACO supported it unanimously on their committee. Obviously bipartisan, supported it because it was local authority. It's not a requirement that anybody do this. And I guess last year the Goucher poll asked people the basic question of whether high income folks should pay higher rates on income taxes, and 3 out of 4 said yes. Last year, the Baltimore Sun wrote a very strong editorial in support of this concept. And as Senator Rosepep said, this is more important this year than ever. I think the public understands that this pandemic economy really has increased the wealth disparities. And when you look at the counties that would benefit from the 3.5, the half the counties in Maryland that are at 3.2 who would get no benefit from this bill if it only went to 3.2. Those are counties with the greatest disparities, the most poverty and the most wealth. So I encourage you to support this. I think it's everybody that I talk to says it's good policy. Question about whether it's good politics depends on how we message it and how we talk about it. So I hope we can do this. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. City Council President Mosby, welcome back to the legislature.
Thank you, Chairman Gazone.
Congratulations on your new post.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to present in front of you today. Thank you, Chairman Gonzone. Thank you, Vice Chair Rosepep. And thank you, Madam President Pro Tem Griffin, for indulging me this opportunity. As we all know, that this is an enabling bill. So this provides the ability for local governments to drive a more progressive tax on its residents. We all know we're in the midst of a global pandemic. You guys are dealing with these issues on a daily basis from the state's perspective, but we are certainly on local jurisdictions. This is not a Baltimore City thing or Western Maryland or Eastern Shore thing. This is a Maryland thing. And I think that's why this bill is postured in a way to have bipartisan support. I had the honor of sponsoring this bill while I was in the House of Delegates. We were able to successfully pass it through last year, and I'm urging you to do the same this year. I think this year, where we are as a society, things have significantly changed. Be it the senior who's secluded in their homes, that do not really understand and know how they're necessarily going to pay for their prescriptions, or the young folks who are stuck in digital divides with virtual schooling, or the parents like in Baltimore City are dealing with an anemic mass transit system, worrying about their parents and their children. The stress couldn't be even higher. Right now, more than ever, we need the flexibility to provide for our residents in ways that we have not thought of in the past. And this seems like a very common sense, bipartisan, enabling piece of legislation to help local governments do that. I'm here today presenting as a city council president, but I'm also carrying the support of my partner in progress, Mayor Brandon Scott, here in the city of Baltimore. I'm urging, I'm requesting, I'm asking of you guys to understand and know the importance of this at this particular moment. And I thank you to Vice Chair Rosapep for bringing this important legislation along. And I look forward to watching it on signing day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the panel so far? Okay. I have someone favorable with amendments. Kevin Canale.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Kevin Canale here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties in strong support of Senate Bill 133 with a technical amendment that I can talk about in a bit. And I think the good senator, the county executive, and Council President Mosby did a great job of laying out the importance of this bill. And you have my written testimony, so I won't belabor those points. I'll say that MACO supports this bill because it is all about flexibility. It's about flexibility in tailoring our local revenue structures to serve and react to community needs. And we know, as Council President Mosby said, we all understand the impacts of this pandemic and the need for some flexibility when it comes to our local revenue structure. The one point I'd like to make is, the General Assembly back in, I think, 1967, went to a local income tax to reduce the reliance on property taxes, which we all know are regressive. And you heard a bill today, the first bill you heard, the Relief Act. We all understand everybody needs help right now. Everybody needs assistance. That bill has a $165 million fiscal impact on county governments just in fiscal year 21. So we need somewhere to go to raise revenue. Half of our counties are at 3.2% on the local income tax rate. That's the highest they can go. And we don't want to go to property tax rates. Again, those are regressive. So if we want to continue to put onto local governments part of the burden to make sure that people have the assistance they need, and we're doing that every single day, and we know it's important. But if we're going to do that, we have to give some flexibility in our local revenue structures because, again, we don't have anywhere else to go to raise that revenue. So we do have a technical amendment to protect counties that are eligible for the top tier of the disparity grant program. We know that those counties are the ones that need state aid the most. Those counties have gone to 3.2% with an expectation that they'd get an extra layer of relief. So we want to make sure that by raising the cap to 3.5, those counties, the way the disparity grants are calculated is still at the maximum rate of 3.2%. So with that, we support this bill strongly. We'd ask for a favorable report with that technical amendment, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you all very much.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. I came in late. I was in another committee in a hearing. I just wanted to lift up that this was the first time that I saw my council president in this capacity before the Budget and Taxation Committee, and just wanted to say welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Okay. We're going to move on now to Senator Ellis. This is Senate Bill 81, Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project Funding.
Thank you, Chairman Gazzoni, Vice Chair Rosapep, members of the Budget and Taxation Committee. For the record, Senator Arthur Ellis from District 28, Charles County, here to present Senate Bill 81, which is Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project funding. And this is my third presentation of this bill. I hope our luck has turned with the committee and we will get a favorable report on this bill. So I have a presentation, some feedback from previous year's testimony in the community, and I just want to ask for the person who control the PowerPoint to go to the next screen, please. And were you able to play this?
5 and 301 going into Southern Maryland.
It's very difficult. I hate it. I wake up every day and I hate it.
According to a Bloomberg News analysis of census data, the people who do this every day waste more time and money for the mile than any other commuters in the United States.
I drive to Sterling from St. Mary's County every day. Now in the evening, it takes me about 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 because of the traffic.
And Southern Maryland leaders have begun losing their tempers.
I believe that's what the state of Maryland is doing to the Southern Maryland region. saying to us, drop dead.
This was a hearing on a bill that would force the state of Maryland to spend at least $27 million to at least start the process of building a light rail line. Right now, the commitment is zero.
And when I spoke to the governor's people today, they said, this project, this bill will address, is number 36 on their list of 38 priority. They're telling us to drop dead. We do not care that the 450,000 families in Southern Maryland have the worst commute in the nation. And Charles County alone, 77% of our workers go north towards DC every day.
The vision is laid out in studies that go back to 1996, the latest study in 2017. The Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Study, which envisions light rail running from White Plains in Charles County south of Waldorf, north up the Route 5 corridor, much of it built in the median between existing lanes, connecting to Metro at Branch Avenue. The price tag is nearly $2 billion according to the study, and all the county leaders from Prince George's south are on board. So now, Southern Maryland legislators aim to force the state to get on board by making it the law that the state has to spend at least $27 million to get this project off the ground and moving.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. And so, I just want to say that was last year. Since then, the state is cooperating with us more. They join us in us being the Southern Maryland counties to do a build grant for federal funds to do what this bill would provide. Unfortunately, I believe through no fault of our own, we did not get those federal funds. But with the change in government, with more money hopefully being evenly distributed to the states, I think we will work with MDOT, the Maryland Department of Transportation, to get some monies in. We just want the support of the Senate and eventually the House. This bill is cross-filed in the House to say that we really want to solve some of the worst commute in the nation. And so we have gotten the help of our congressman in District 5, which is Majority Leader Hoyer. He's working with us along with Senators Van Hollen and Cardin to help secure these funds. And I must say, I strongly believe the reason why we didn't get those federal funds with the help of MDOT, we put in some money last year, and Charles County and Prince George's County put in some money in that grant request, is because of political reasons. And I say that because New York, there were like a whole bunch of projects applied through New York to the US Department of Transportation, and they got 0 projects funded. New York, great state of New York. New Jersey, same thing. Connecticut, same thing. They put in their request for scores of projects, and all those states got 0 funded. Maryland, we only got 1 of our projects funded. And so if you notice the trend right there, all the blue states got nothing, and most of the money went to purple or red states. So with a change in government, I think we're in a great position, change in government in Washington, D.C., to really move some of these transit projects forward. And I ask your support to really make that happen. Next slide, please. So this is in your package, showing going from in red line from White Plains, which is in the center of Charles County, straight up to the Branch Avenue stop, passing by Andrews Air Force Base and helping so many of our military folks who live in Charles County, who live in southern Prince George's County, to get to work without encountering that hour-plus commute, even from White Plains to, say, Andrews Air Force Base. Next slide, please. Okay, the question is why I would like to support this project, this bill. Of course, we talked about the terrible commute, and one day we hope our workers will get back to the office, and when that'll be good news, bad news, it'll bring the traffic back. And so we just want to be ready and proactive when that happens. The implications of this problem, the commute time, again, is very long. parents can't get home to their children to help with homework, take them to Little League games, swimming practice, or prepare that nice home-cooked meal. Traffic is so terrible. And of course, fatalities on the roads. It's just really, we have some of the worst roads in Maryland based on highway accidents. Next slide, please. This bill, of course, endorsed by the, I shouldn't say of course, but thankfully they're endorsed this year by the Maryland Transit Caucus on a priority list. Of course, the Charles County leaders, commissioners, love support. The Prince George's County leaders, they support this bill. And I think a new letter of support just came in from all those governments involved. Next slide, please. Of course, how is this project way overdue? According to the 1997 Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Study, recommendations, an 18-mile rail system with 13 stations in Charles and Prince George's County should be built. Much of the system will be built in the median aligned to Route 301-5 through Southern Maryland. This was 24 years ago, and we still have the need, which has definitely grown much more since 24 years ago. I must say, I had a conversation with the new secretary, well, 1 year new of Maryland Department of Transportation, and he was a young engineer who helped design the Route 5301 corridor. And he told me they designed that road with the bridges to accommodate a light rail system. So we would tear down very few trees, tear up very few farmlands, and this would really take a lot of cars off the road. And it's such a really proposal that makes so much sense. We have the support of the environmental groups, as this will take a lot of carbon out of the air, and that goes into our bay and cause so much pollution. Could you move on, please? Next slide. Okay, the next slide, we'll just skip through that. We talked about the cost already. And so this project is number 36 on the list of 30. That was last year. And so anyway, that quote, we were moving beyond that, and we're trying to work on solutions and to move a solution for this gridlock we see in this picture, to resolve it and to improve commutes, improve the economy, and improve the air quality and the health disparities that exist in the Southern Prince George's Charles County corridor. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members, for your time and attention to this very important bill. And I ask for your support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rosapep has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's actually just a very brief comment. As the senator from Charles County know, I've been supportive of this for a long time, and still much am. The point that you made, I thought, about the new administration is an important one, and I just want to raise this mostly for our State Department of Transportation, but for all of us. We do have an opportunity because the new president has made a huge priority of infrastructure and actually doing it. And so I think it's very important that this is the kind of project, along with others, that Maryland needs to be ready to go with to move forward, so that when the president and the Congress move on the National Infrastructure Initiative, we have our ducks lined up. And I think this fits right into it. And I just wanted to thank the senator for keeping the push forward on this. And I think it fits into a good statewide plan that fits very, very well with the president's approach of climate change, equity, and infrastructure in all parts of the state and the nation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Reuben Collins. There we go.
Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Reuben Collins, President of the Charles County Board of Commissioners. Again, members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of Senate Bill 81. And I will attempt to follow up the outstanding presentation that was set forth by our Senator Ellis. What I will do is focus on a couple of key points: the economic benefits of Senate Bill 81, the coordination that has been in place for well over a decade with Prince George's County, and finally, the actual commitment to land use that is associated with the preparation for SMRT. Southern Maryland Rapid Transit is projected to significantly encourage economic growth, vastly increasing job growth and adding an estimated $20 billion to income and $30 billion to property development and values. The increased employment and property values resulting from rapid transit are projected to expand the tax base by $5 billion to $6 billion, which in itself would cover the cost of the project. I think too often when we look at Southern Maryland Rapid Transit, it is presented as a Charles County bill, but I really want to emphasize the partnership that has been established through the years with Prince George's County, and make the argument that this should be viewed as a regional bill and not merely a bill that would impact solely Charles County. 2/3 of this 19-mile transit corridor lies within Prince George's County, and we've been lockstep with them along the way. Prince George's County's council passed a resolution in 2011 to partner with Charles County and promote the preservation of the transit corridor for this project and focus transit-oriented development along the planned alignment and station areas. Charles County has held this transit project as its highest transportation priority for over a decade and has rezoned 300 acres as high-density transit-oriented development. Both counties hold SMRT as high priorities in their respective transportation priority letters and have been partners at the table regularly with the Maryland Department's Transportation's past efforts on this critical project. This is further cemented this past year when MDOT applied for the most recent round of US DOT build grants to help fund this project. And I just wanted to really follow up on a very key point that Senator Ellis made about being positioned in the political climate that exists right now and the potential for potential funding on the federal level. Our representation on the federal level has been solidly behind this project. And so I wanted to really emphasize the economic impact again and the partnership that has been in place with Prince George's County. And with that, Mr. Chair, I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Board of Charles County Commissioners and for the residents of Charles County.
Thank you. Good to see you. Gary Hodge.
I think I'm on now, right?
You are.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. I'm not going to chew up a lot of time covering the points that have been made very excellently by the previous speakers. My name's Gary Hodge. I've been a leading advocate for this project for 33 years, since we wrote a letter to Governor William Donald Schaefer in 1988, asking for action on this. 30 years ago, this was a vision. Now it's a necessity. And with your help, this won't continue to be a mirage beyond our reach. This committee plays a very critical role in terms of moving to the next step on this project. The next step is for us to complete the NEPA process so that we're in position to pursue capital funding to actually build this facility. So it would be critically important for this committee to weigh in and hopefully support our efforts with a positive report on this bill. I'd like to make a quick comment on what Senator Rosapep said, which is a vitally important aspect of this. And that is that we may have finally an administration at the federal level that will be supportive of our efforts to move forward with this, not only in the completion of the environmental studies, but also in the actual construction of the project. And I'll stand by for any questions there may be. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the senators panel? Okay, thank you very much, Senator. But hold on, because you're next up. Senate Bill 11, Sales and Use Tax, Agricultural Purpose Exemption, Seedlings and Fruit Trees.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, and esteemed committee members. Senator Arthur Ellis from Legislative District 28, Charles County, Southern Maryland. And this is pretty much a simple bill, Senate Bill 11.
Can you hold on for 1 second? I'm sorry. A lot of folks are still got their mics going. Can you put everything on mute, please? Thank you. Go ahead, Senator.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to present Senate Bill 11, which is a really simple bill to exempt from sales taxes when people buy, say, seedlings, fruit trees. So many folks have gardens now, and they go to buy, say, their broccoli plants, little plants. They go to buy their tomato plants, and they are charged a tax. Well, folks are doing that to grow food to eat. It's quite interesting to know that we do not pay sales tax on grocery purchases, fruits, vegetables, like that. So why would we want to, I won't use the term penalize. Why do we want to, well, I did, right? Why do we want to penalize folks if they are out planting their food, growing their tomatoes or their sweet potatoes or their watermelon? And so I think encouraging folks to really get in the garden. It's great for them, exercise. They get to grow good fruits and vegetables for their families, healthy. And I must say, when it's homegrown, there's nothing better. I have a big garden every year in my at home in Charles County. And when we can get out, I usually have, say, daycare in the summer come, providers come and bring their students in. You know, one year we had a daycare with kindergartners, first graders come in, and I said, hey, go try those cherry tomatoes over there. And they're like, no, we won't do that. We don't like tomatoes. And then I know how to get the little guys to go. I dare them to go and try a tomato. And of course, one kid, yes, I will do it. So he went and tried one of my cherry tomatoes and picked it and ate it. And he wouldn't stop eating. And then the other kids saw, they ran over there, started eating cherry tomatoes. And they're like, oh, we love these tomatoes. That's a homegrown tomato, that's a homegrown garden. And I have stories like that to tell a lot about how kids really love to eat those homegrown things because it tastes so much better. And so we want to encourage the exercise, we want to encourage the healthy foods and the healthy eating, to really encourage parents to bring their children up more in a garden type culture, and to really get the nutrition and to really get the exercise, and to really make sure that they understand that we support them when they go to buy these seedlings and fruit trees and stuff to plant to provide these healthy food for their families. They will not pay more because they're putting that sweat equity in growing those fruits and vegetables. So that's basically the idea behind the bill, to encourage exercise, health, and more folks to get out there and plant. So with that, ask for your support. According to fiscal notes, it's an $81,000 hit on the budget, but I think the health effects and positive health effects and otherwise will be far, far greater than that. So I ask for your support on Senate Bill 11.
Thanks, Senator. Kevin Addix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and Mr. Vice Chair, and to the Senate sponsor, Senator Ellis. Thank you very much for putting this bill in. I personally agree, having a home garden and knowing the health benefits of it. On behalf of the Maryland Wineries Association, I'm here asking for your favorable support, but with a friendly amendment, and that is to, and that was included in my testimony, and I believe the senator has a copy. It's simply to add fruit producing vines to this, because the senator is talking about fruit trees, which is great. When you think about other fruit, we've got blackberries, raspberries, obviously grapes as well that are vines. We've got a lot of folks over the last year who have called our office asking for tips on how to grow grapes and other things. So, as bad as the crisis has been, it's really turned people toward figuring out how to grow their own food. And we hope turning into home winemakers and eventually joining the industry as folks who are paying into the economy as well. So with that, we urge your favorable with amendment support. Thank you.
Thank you. Colby Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Colby Ferguson on behalf of Maryland Farm Bureau, and we also come here in support of Senate Bill 11 with the same amendment that Kevin had just brought up. Obviously, having the opportunity to grow your own food is a right that everyone has, and we hope that we do more of it. And I think having this opportunity to include things such as seedlings and trees and to grow more fruits and vegetables is going to help in offering those additional vines, as Kevin had brought out. Most people think of just wine as grapevines, but there are other fruit producing vines that would fall within this as well. So we hope that this is favorable in this committee, and we would encourage a favorable report.
Thank you. Questions for the panel? Senator, thank you. Okay. On to Senator Eckert. Senate Bill 102, income tax credits for preceptors in areas with healthcare workforce shortages. Didn't we already have one of these this year?
You did. Thank you, Mr.
You got preceptors everywhere.
This is a variation on the theme. I just wanted to keep the issues clear, so we put them into two separate bills. The bill you heard last week would adjust the clinical hours and remove the sunset on the current preceptor tax credit bill for physicians and for nurse practitioners. For several years now, the physician's assistants have wanted to be a part of this mix. But there's been a little bit of a problem because, as you know, the physician assistants are under the Board of Physicians, not the Board of Nursing. When the Board of Nursing nurse practitioners came forward, I said, this is a novel tax credit. You have to bring me your money because you're going to grow your own, and then we'll put it in a fund so that that fund will be a part of what then reimburses or provides for that tax credit. So I've tried to get them to work it out with the Board of Physicians. So they think we've worked this out. So we're bringing it forward to add the PAs into the mix. They will assess themselves $15 like the nurse practitioners do, it will go in a fund at the physician's board, and that fund will offset the cost of the tax credit. Remember, the preceptors provide this clinical oversight gratis, pro bono. They do not get compensated for it, and it's 3 or 4 rotations in order to qualify for that $1,000 tax credit per student that they precept. So that's why I kept it straight, because it was getting a little confusing, and I thought it would be easier to present it and to the committee and urge your favorable passage of it, because it is an additional way to address the healthcare shortage, particularly now. We need all we can get. So thank you very much.
Senator, I remember the discussions we've had over this.
Yes.
And the fact that you got them to chip in and make this work, I think is outstanding. So good job.
Thank you. I think it's a good model. I mean, it would be interesting to see if we could get more people to grow their own. I see it as growing your own,
right. A lot of growing in this hearing today.
Yeah. Okay.
This hearing today. Okay. Teresa Newman. Hello.
Hello. I'm waiting for my video, but I don't really need it. Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and members of the committee. I am Teresa Newman, a veteran PA for 27 years, Legislative Director for the Maryland Academy of PAs, and a PA educator for the last 12 years. I've supplied you with written testimony in favor of Senate Bill 102, and I'm here today to update you on work that was done since the last legislative session. Over the summer and fall, I have worked with the Maryland Board of Physicians, the nurse practitioners, and Dr. DePinto's office, which is the Office of Population Health Improvement in the Department of Health, to work through the concerns that were raised during the 2020 legislative session. I'm pleased to state that the issues, to the best of my knowledge, have been resolved regarding this bill. Most likely it's not news to anyone that there are shortages of healthcare providers in many areas of the state, especially rural areas and less affluent areas. Maryland is now home to 4 PA programs, with a 5th one on the radar. Half of the current ones are located in these rural areas, with each of them having the mission of producing competent healthcare providers that serve these underserved communities. We need clinical preceptors in these areas to both train and retain PAs for future practice. Maryland PAs are supportive of a self-imposed licensing fee to fund this tax credit for preceptors who volunteer their time to train PA students. And please note that physicians, both MDs and DOs, licensed PAs and licensed nurse practitioners are able to precept a PA student. We believe in that collaborative team approach to healthcare. U.S. News and World Report just published their annual top jobs overall in the United States, and specifically in healthcare, and the PA profession just topped both lists. We are a viable complement to the healthcare team and offer quality healthcare services to the residents of this great state. This tax credit has been in place for physicians and NPs, and we're asking for your favorable report on this bill to extend the same to PA preceptors. I want to thank Senator Eckert for her perseverance in getting this legislation pushed through, and for championing this effort for the residents of Maryland. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. I think we don't have to be sold too hard on this. I think we're okay. Richard Colgan. You're muted still, sir.
That's never happened to me before. I apologize, and I'm lying. My name is Richard Colgan. I'm a family physician, an academic family medicine educator at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, a professor in the Department of Family and Community Medicine. Thank you for letting me speak for just a few moments. I'll be very brief. I'm grateful to Senator Eckert and all the other legislators who put forth Senate Bill 411 several years back. At that time, this allowed for a community preceptor tax credit for physicians and nurse practitioners to host students in their office. The physician assistants kind of stepped backwards because they kind of joined us a little bit later. And basically, they were very kind in letting us move forward without them joining at the time. And this is an effort to allow physician assistant preceptors to be eligible for community preceptor tax credits, much like the nurse practitioner and physician preceptors currently enjoy. We on a separate bill, I know that the number of hours has been reduced from 160 to 100, or that request anyway. I'll just want to say that we are in dire need of primary care clinicians in the state of Maryland, MDs, NPs, PAs, particularly in the underserved areas of our state. And thanks to Senate Bill 411 that Senator Eckert put forth several years back, many community preceptors stepped forward to help us educate medical students and NP students. As an educator in family medicine, I can just tell you that it's all about face time. And as much time as we can get in front of these students to see what we do for a living and the kind of patients that we take care of, they wind up in many times falling in love with primary care medicine. I'm working right now at our 29 South Paca urban care outpatient family medicine practice with a student actually who's in the room right now seeing the patients. So I won't belabor the point, but I believe that by allowing for a little incentive for preceptors to take MD, NP, and PA students into their office, these students will want to emulate and do what we do for a living. And again, this effort is to be focused on the areas that are underserved in the state of Maryland, and particularly for primary care medicine. And we're very much in favor of the PAs being able to avail themselves of this advantage. And with that, I'll just stop there. And thank you very much for allowing me to participate.
Thank you. Allison Taylor.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Want to thank Senator Eckert for her leadership on this issue for a number of years. Kaiser Permanente has about 450,000 members in Maryland. We completely support this. The other members of the panel have given the same reasons that I would have given, so I'll just say me too and urge a favorable report.
All right, awesome. Any questions for the panel? Senator, thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Senator Rosapep. Senate Bill 113, Opportunity Zone Tax Deduction Reform Act of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason this bill is here is because the Opportunity Zone Reform Act of 2020 didn't pass. So we're hoping this is a better year. But it is the same bill. The essence of the issue is in the end of 2017, as part of a huge federal tax package, the Opportunity Zone tax break was created, which is basically an incredibly generous tax break for extremely wealthy people to not pay taxes on their capital gains and roll them over into other investments. The public purpose of it is to encourage investment in areas that wouldn't otherwise get investment, and that's a laudable purpose. Unfortunately, because of our piggyback system with the federal tax law, that huge tax break for very wealthy people automatically flowed through to the state tax. And so unlike the programs we talked about earlier, the governor's proposal to help businesses in the state who've been suffering through COVID in a targeted way in Maryland, the way the law works now until we pass this bill is that we are giving huge tax breaks to a handful of people to invest outside of Maryland. Now, it is true that if they invest in a fund that invests in opportunity zones in Maryland, there would be some investment in Maryland. But Maryland's 2% of the United States. There are opportunities in Maryland, but the overwhelming amount of this investment will be going outside Maryland. So it doesn't make much sense for us to give huge tax breaks to encourage people to invest outside of Maryland. And for that reason, this bill would essentially decouple from that federal tax break and say this money could be used more efficiently and more equitably to help people in Maryland instead of outside of Maryland. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I do not have anyone signed up on this one. So anything for the senator? Hearing none, we'll move on to Senate Bill 287. Senator Hayes, income tax subtraction modification for centenarians.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Budget and Tax Committee. Senator Antonio Hayes, for the record. Senate Bill 287, this is a reintroduction bill that actually passed the House of Delegates last year on the floor and ran out of time because, we cut short. But the purpose of the bill is to honor our society's memory by providing a substantial tax credit in the form of a Maryland income tax subtraction modification to centenarians. Turning 100 years old is an achievement in itself, and that should be celebrated. This bill gives our state the opportunity to recognize these distinguished individuals for their contributions and loyalty to our great state. Most often they're perfect voters and active members of society. At a certain point, a person's contribution to society has been paid, and it is time for society to alleviate their financial burden and taxes to allow them to live their twilight years in peace and comfort. Senate Bill 287 will provide further security to those elders. Centenarians are our society's most vulnerable people, and special care should be set aside to provide for them. Maryland struggles to retain its retiring community, with many of our elders moving to Delaware and elsewhere. This bill will help further to balance the scales. And with that, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I urge a favorable report for Senate Bill 287. Any questions?
Thank you, Senator. I don't, it doesn't show that I really have, is it one name maybe? Is Tammy Breslin there?
Senator, she was here, but she is not in the group anymore. Don't know what happened.
Okay. Questions for the senator? Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Senator Benson, Senate Bill 329, income tax credit for the purchase and installation of indoor air quality equipment. Senator? Nice to see you. You're still on mute. Senator, you're still on mute.
You're still, there you go. Okay. Y'all with me?
We're with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all so very much for allowing me to come here before your committee this afternoon. By the way, thank God for Zoom. I don't know what would happen if we didn't have Zoom, you all. We probably wouldn't be able to do some of the wonderful things that we're going to be doing this session if we didn't have Zoom. I don't know. Good afternoon, Chair Guzan, Vice Chair Rosa Pep, and esteemed members of the Budget and Taxation Committee. Senate Bill 325, income tax credit for the purchase and installation of indoor air quality equipment, aims to create healthy homes and businesses by providing a building incentive. I hope you all listened very carefully to the last piece of legislation that just came before you to understand why it is so important for Baltimore City and Prince George's County. This bill is extremely important. This bill will help to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and other airborne viruses and will support healthy indoor quality in buildings throughout Maryland by creating an incentive for homes and businesses to update their equipment. This will not only help our state fight the spread of COVID-19, it also has long-term health benefits and will create local jobs. Other states such as New York, Tennessee, and California have led the charge with programs that support the indoor air quality improvements. This bill would establish an income tax credit to incentivize investments that will improve indoor air quality for homes and small businesses with 50 or fewer employees. Specifically, the tax credit would be for up to 50% of the cost to purchase and install the equipment, not to exceed $1,000 for residential or $2,000 for small businesses. The bill also requires that the equipment be installed by Maryland licensed contractors to ensure it is done properly. I am amending the bill to match the cross-file bill that Delegate Brooks has introduced. Delegate Brooks and I are also proposing an amendment to the residential portion of the bill to better address equity. The amendment essentially has two parts. One, it would require that 30% of the allocated residential tax credits go to low-income households. That's defined as 200% of the federal poverty level. Number two, it would allow renters to also benefit by broadening the definition of eligible household to not only include homeowners investing in improvements on their own home, but it also incentivizes landlords of small multifamily properties with up to 4 units to make these improvements, which would directly benefit their tenants. While this bill has not been reprinted yet, I asked the committee to consider Senate Bill 329 in the context of those additional provisions. Thus, I respectfully urge the committee for a favorable report with amendments on Senate Bill 329. Thank you.
Thank you. John Van Horn. Need your mic.
Good afternoon, Mr. Guzioni, Vice Chair Rose Pierre, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of SB 329, the Indoor Air Quality Tax Credit Bill. My name is John Van Horn, and I'm General Manager of Arundel Cooling and Heating, a small business HVAC company based in Ithaca, Maryland, that has been family-owned and operated since 1971. I also serve as board president for the Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors of Maryland, also known as HACC, and I'm honored to be representing our trade association of over 150 member companies here today. HCC respectfully asked the committee for a favorable report with Senator Benson's proposed amendments. The purpose of this bill is to help Maryland families and small businesses make the investment in indoor air quality improvements that can help mitigate the spread of COVID through the difficult months ahead, as well as supporting health over the long term. We're talking about proven technologies that my company already installs, including high MERV filters, which keep the air clean by filtering out very fine particles, and bipolar ionizers, which can be installed in the ductwork and send negative charges to deactivate viral cells. We submitted written testimony together with AACP, who is also testifying here today, that goes into more detail on these technologies. So I won't belabor the point here, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about how these technologies and solutions work. Unfortunately, these solutions haven't been widely implemented yet, and especially now in the context of COVID and our economic crises. Small businesses and family could use help to afford these indoor air quality improvements. The indoor air quality tax credit would also support local jobs and provide economic stimulus. My company, for example, employs 12 HVAC technicians who are trained to install these technologies. The bill specifically requires that the equipment be installed by Maryland licensed HVAC contractors to ensure that the work is done by professionals who have the necessary training to understand how to install the technologies properly and how they fit into the HVAC system as a whole. Providing a financial incentive in the form of this tax credit will help improve the affordability of these technologies. spurring investments in healthier indoor environments while stimulating the local economy. The difficult irony, of course, is that as COVID has made it more important than ever to address indoor air quality, it simultaneously has created an economic crisis and tightened fiscal constraints for the state. However, this tax credit is one lever that this committee and legislature can pull to help our economy back on the right track, help small businesses reopen safely in the months ahead, and help Maryland families improve the health and safety of their indoor environment, generating lasting and long-term benefits. HCC strongly supports the proposed amendment to prioritize low-income families and include renters. We believe including these provisions will help ensure that this legislation benefits Marylanders more equitably. For all those reasons, I respectfully ask for a favorable report with amendments on this bill. Thank you so much again for the opportunity, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Michael Wheat.
Thank you, Chair Gazzoni, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I really appreciate this opportunity to testify today in support of SB 329, the Indoor Air Quality Tax Credit Bill. My name is Michael Wheat, and I'm president of James A. Wheat & Sons, a family-owned and operated HVAC company based in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I'm also a member of the Association of Air Conditioning Professionals, AACP, and past president of AACP. I'm honored to be representing our trade association here today. AACP has a membership of over 110 professional HVAC industrial contractors and distributors in Maryland, Virginia, and DC area. Over 85% of our companies provide HVAC services to customers in the state of Maryland, and my company is one of those. On behalf of my small family-owned business in AACP, I respectfully ask the committee to report this bill favorably with the amendment Senator Benson has proposed. Our member companies are leaders in the HVAC industry and in the installation of indoor air quality equipment. They represent not only small businesses and local jobs that are really the backbone of Maryland's economy, but also a critically important skilled workforce that provides essential HVAC services to homes, businesses, and other facilities. This bill would support local Maryland jobs by spurring more investment in these important technologies and solutions because HVAC work is inherently local and cannot be outsourced. And at the same time, it would directly support public health, helping Maryland families and small businesses afford healthier indoor air. Supporting healthy indoor air quality strategies to reduce viral transmission indoors is key to the state's public health efforts now and into the future. So we see this bill as a clear win-win as the state works to address the monumental crisis we're facing with the pandemic and the economic downturn. For all of those reasons, I hope you will consider reporting this bill favorably with the sponsors' amendments to stimulate our economy while simultaneously helping more Marylanders breathe healthy indoor air and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the senator or the panel? Seeing none. Thank you, Senator. Okay, Senate Bill 198, Senator Kramer, income tax credit for energy efficiency upgrades, passive houses.
You ready for me, Mr. Chair?
Couldn't be more ready.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon to you and as a committee. Ben Kramer here to introduce Senate Bill 198. And lo and behold, it's a tax credit bill. So I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you to discuss it. And this one really is, not that they're not all good tax credit bills, because they are.
How do I go back?
But this one.
Wait a minute, tell me how.
This one would provide the opportunity for people who are looking to make energy efficiency improvements to their homes, the opportunity to get a very small tax credit to help incentivize them to do so and help give them a little financial assistance in doing it. The fact of the matter is, one of the big pieces of our climate crisis to reduce our carbon footprint is energy efficiency. And the whole world of energy efficiency opens up significant opportunities to reduce our carbon emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions, and to make significant strides in reducing our carbon footprint. So with the implementation of this legislation, someone who makes one of the following energy efficiency upgrades, either additional insulation, replacement of windows with energy efficient windows, storm windows, weather stripping and caulking, and duct sealing and insulation, they would have the opportunity to have a tax credit of up to 10% of the costs that they spend to make the improvements, or up to $2,000 maximum, whichever is less. To show how hip and contemporary this bill is, there's even a provision in there that if we're in a state of emergency, the tax credit is not applicable during that period of time, so that we do not deplete state resources if they are needed during a state of emergency. With that, I think, that's it. It's pretty easy peasy. I've seen the written testimony. I was shocked that even the Public Service Commission, which rarely weighs in on bills other than informational purposes or opposition, came out and has supported the bill along with a number of other different interests. I'm unaware of any opposition. So with that, Mr. Chair, committee, I would certainly welcome any questions.
Okay, hip like the sponsor. Any questions? Thank you very much.
You guys got nothing for me? That's it. All righty then. Thank you. Everybody stay healthy.
You too.
Bye now.
Patterson, Senate Bill 45, State Lottery and Gaming Control Agency, Gaming Study, Use of Gaming Proceeds.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of Budget and Taxation Committee. I got 3 operations going on right now, 2 computers waiting on different bills, and we're scheduled to go to get a shot vaccine today. So I'm really sort of messed up here, but let me just briefly thank you for the opportunity to introduce the Senate Bill of 45. This bill will require the State Lottery Gaming and Control Agency to study particularly the local impact distribution of funds. And I should tell you, Mr. Chair, that this committee had this bill before your committee last year. Didn't quite make it out of the full General Assembly, but it passed Budget and Taxation by 12-0, and the full Senate by a vote of 46-0. There's no major financial impact to implement this bill. I think last year we had about $150,000 for various small costs, but I certainly want to thank you for taking this bill under your consideration again, and I hope that again you will provide it a favorable response. I will tell you, Mr. Chair, we are in the process of developing a little technical amendment that I'm working with Mr. Got Matt last name now, Matt and company. So did want to let you know that. With that, I thank you very much.
Very good, Senator. Thank you. Questions for the Senator? Okay, thank you very much.
I can go get my vaccine. Thank you.
Go get it. Go get it. All right. Senator West, last but not least, Senate Bill 24. Of course, the committee is very familiar with this issue. You're muted still.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for being, in the last 8 minutes, I've been called by 2 committees to present bills. And, you know, it always happens.
None like budget and tax, though.
They all come a crunch. So yes, you are familiar with this bill. last year, the Maryland voters overwhelmingly passed the sports gambling referendum. This bill is very simple. It provides that if the State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission decides to issue sports gambling licenses, it will issue such a license to the Maryland State Fairgrounds. State Fairgrounds is a deserving licensee for a number of reasons. First, the owner of the fairgrounds, his name is called the Maryland State Fair and Agricultural Society, Inc. It's a nonprofit entity, a 501c3. All the revenue generated through the sports gambling licenses, therefore, will be used by the fairgrounds for its charitable purposes. No money is going to flow into anyone's pocket. No profits are going to be made. Examples of good works of the fairgrounds are too numerous to recount here, but yesterday I went to the fairgrounds and received my vaccination, along with hundreds of other people in what's known as the Cow Palace. The place was just packed full of people and lots of volunteers. It was very efficiently run. That facility has been donated by the fairgrounds to the people of Baltimore County. They're not receiving any compensation for allowing their facilities to be used. And this is the kind of good works they constantly do throughout the whole year. Baltimore County is so lucky to have the fairgrounds as a good neighbor. It's civic minded, and we're so lucky to have them. Additionally, the fairgrounds will be the only sports gambling licensee in Baltimore County. If there's a determination to apportion the sports gambling licenses throughout the state, it will be important to ensure that Baltimore County is not left out. Thirdly, the fairgrounds is already the #1 off-track betting location in the state of Maryland. Sports gambling will be run in the same venue in which off-track betting has been so successful. Fourthly, there's an umbrella group of 50 surrounding neighborhood associations, which has already voted in support of the fairgrounds being a licensed sports gambling, sports wagering location. So there's no problem with neighbors complaining about it. They've already consented in advance to sports wagering going on at the fairgrounds. Finally, the 140-year-old Maryland State Fairgrounds has critical capital needs, including its iconic 60-year-old grandstand and community center. Any money inuring to the fairgrounds as a result of sports gambling will be invaluable in helping the fairgrounds to upgrade its facilities. I note that there is an amendment, and if I don't have the final copy, I will get it to the committee to make sure that since the fairgrounds is a nonprofit, it wants to form a subsidiary which will actually run the sports gambling. So the amendment would permit that to occur. Also, Senator Seedling this morning telephoned me in the car and asked that he be permitted to co-sponsor this bill. So I have a affirmation of co-sponsorship to file with the committee. And now I have 3 witnesses, Gary Brewster, who's the chair of the fairgrounds, Donna Myers, who's the president of the fairgrounds, and Barry Williams, who's the director of Buildings and Grounds Committee on the board of the fairgrounds.
Very good. Thank you, Senator. Sure.
Chair Gazzoni, Vice Chairman Rossapep, and distinguished committee members. I remember from my time in the legislature, when the chairman says we're very familiar with an issue, that means that not a lot of additional commentary is necessary. So I got that hint. And I wouldn't have even wasted your time, because I've been fortunate enough to talk to almost every member of your committee about the importance of the state fairgrounds. But just in the last 48 hours, we heard a rumor. You may know if it's true or not, but I don't know, so I couldn't take any chances. That there's a House bill that's coming that is casinos only, which would leave out racetracks, which the Maryland State Fair has. So not knowing of the truth of that rumor, I discussed with our lobbyist, Frank Boston. I didn't want to waste the committee's time. And he communicated with your committee and said, yeah, go ahead, but don't be too long. Senator West has already said really everything that I wanted to say. I just want to remind you again that I'm a volunteer. It's a nonprofit. We have 2 million people a year on campus. We're owned by Marylanders. The profit stays in Maryland, no greed. We do have critical capital needs. Our sheep, swine, and goat barn was built by the Army Corps of Engineers during World War II, and it's falling down. Our administration roof leaks, and there are other things. So we want to be able to continue to be of service, and we're doing the testing. We're doing vaccines. We've been doing jury selection for trials. We've offered to the state vet our 600 stalls for animals if farmers get sick. We have emergency management vehicles on site. We're doing food distributions. The American Red Cross is doing blood drives. These are the sorts of things we do to be of service. and we do have an agricultural mission. You'll be proud to know that Maryland, the Maryland State Fair, has the #1 hog show in the nation. And our Anga show brings animals from 24 states. So we do have a lot to do to benefit Maryland agriculturally. We just put in 7,000 solar panels. We're designing a stormwater management thing. We just put in 60 new trees. So we're being good neighbors, and we did get the unanimous support of the Baltimore County House delegation, Baltimore County Senate delegation, 10,000 neighbors from surrounding communities. So really, we feel as though Maryland is going to get its most bang for the buck if we're granted a sports wagering license with mobile, so that money doesn't go out of state or out of country. It stays right here in Maryland. And as Senator West said, with the #1 OTB, what we've discovered is that right down the Interstate 83 corridor, a lot of our customers are coming from Pennsylvania. And we love to get those good Pennsylvania dollars here in Maryland, so we can use that revenue to support education. The one final thing I want to leave you with is that a study was done we had nothing to do with, a Johnson Independent Consulting report, and it said that if some modest improvements were made to the fairgrounds and it was brought up to code, it would generate an additional $55 to $60 million a year in economic impact for the state of Maryland, because our facilities could be used year round in a manner that is needed by all of central Maryland. So rather than coming back to the legislature every year asking for capital help, it would really be great to have this independent revenue stream to meet our future capital needs. So I promised I wouldn't use up all of my time. I thank you all again for your service, and we're grateful for your consideration. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Gazon and committee members. I'm Donna Myers. I'm president of the Maryland State Fair and Agricultural Society. The fair has worked hard to stay relevant to its beginnings as an opportunity for local farmers, 4-H FFA members to showcase their livestock and home goods and provide entertainment for fairgoers. Although providing that platform, the fair continues to evolve and expand to ensure opportunities for all Marylanders to either participate or be educated on the importance of agriculture. As more of our population moved away from farming to developing cities' non-ag industry, the fair strives and continues to work toward following its mission statement of providing agriculture and nature-based education on a year-round basis through partnerships, community engagements, and development of both temporary and permanent exhibits. In addition to providing scholarships to youth, agriculture is the #1 industry in Maryland, and its importance cannot be understated as to the benefits farming and its supporting industry is to Maryland consumers. Open and locally produced healthy food for both humans as well as animals is important to the balance of industry in our state. The fair has developed educational opportunities during the fair, such as the You Learn Center, where youth and families come and can interactively see and learn about farm equipment, science behind food production, oyster bed production, watch a calf or piglet be born at a birthing center, visit horse land located at the racetrack that gives children the opportunity to learn about horse and ponies and engage in horse-related activities. We are most excited to be in the planning stages of making our nature play space a year-round area on the north end of our campus that will provide children the opportunity to learn and play in a natural setting in the woods with natural materials. The funding from sports betting will give us the ability to further develop opportunities for youth. We currently partner with an elementary school where we go to the school, provide seeds to make things. 6 weeks later, we bus the students to the fair where they then planted the plants in a living wall to be showcased during the fair, as well as different stations where they could learn about different ag products and farm animals. I'd love to expand on that concept, increasing the numbers of schools we could host. We would like to update our ancient and obsolete farm and garden building to include a greenhouse that area school children could use to learn about gardening and growing plants as part of the course studies, skills that would be useful to them their whole lives. Senator Ellis spoke about earlier today. Financial benefits to sports betting revenue that Maryland State Fair would receive would be shared with all Marylanders as the fair continues to serve the needs of all of our residents. Thank you for this opportunity. Let me speak.
Thank you. Okay, Barry Williams. Last testimony for the day.
Okay. Hopefully you hear me right now.
Yes.
Great. Senators Gazzoni and Senator West, good to see you both. My name is Barry Williams, and I am on the board of directors for the Maryland State Fair and Agricultural Society, and I'm a member of the Building and Grounds Committee. Now, I'm going to share with you that these are critical times good, now you have the video, critical times at the Maryland State Fair. We willingly dedicated our service on your behalf to all Marylanders. From combating the coronavirus to hosting first responders to providing venue for 10,000 children to play sports. Much is being done, and we wish we could do that much more. However, our facilities and infrastructure are in critical condition. And what I mean by that, very poor condition. The Carnival Midway used for COVID testing and vaccination collapsed 2 weeks ago with yet another busted water pipe. The administration building roofs leaks in our Vista room, which is used by our first responders. The veterinary detention barn roof has buckled. Concrete and steel support structures are rusting and eroding in our grandstand and community center, and the list goes on. As a 501c3 nonprofit led by volunteers, we need help now more than ever to continue our 141 years of service to the state of Maryland. A long-term revenue stream is needed and would address long-term capital needs. Sports wagering at the Maryland State Fairgrounds would provide such a solution. Thank you again for your service and for your consideration of the great needs and the great contributions that exist at Maryland's own Maryland State Fairgrounds. Thank you very much.
All right. Questions for the panel? Oh, Senator Solling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank Senator West for presenting this bill. It is a very important bill for Baltimore County. That's why he has the support of the senators and the delegates over in the House. And I want to thank all the volunteers, and especially Mr. Jerry Brewster. He's unbelievable. He brings a lot to the table. He's done a lot for the state of Maryland for the COVID relief. We always have the Farm Bureau there and for the fair. And the fair is always amazing. You do an unbelievable job as a volunteer. So I want to emphasize that as a volunteer. So I want to thank you. I want to thank all those that gave their testimony, and it's a great bill. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comments. All right, everybody. Senator, thank you for bringing the bill to us. That concludes our hearing for today. We have another hearing tomorrow at 1 and plan on voting on Thursday at 11. But stay tuned. Schedule may change. All right. Anybody have anything for me from the committee?